Hello, welcome to Q&A Wednesday. I'm Brandis, and today I am going to be answering one of our Facebook group members' questions about using props. I think it's important to know that there are so many ways to perform yoga postures, and that what we traditionally think of as being the way to do it is not always the best way for each person. Sometimes I think modifications and using props gets a bad rap because it's not the pose that maybe we have in our mind or what we see someone else doing. When the reality is, it's more important to use props and modifications to get the best out of your yoga postures and poses than to not, to be quite honest. Because if you are feeling stable and supported in the yoga postures that you are in, you will get more out of it because your muscles will be able to stabilize, and then the rest will go from there. So it's not about what's right or wrong in the posture other than what's best for you and your body. So some of the props that I wanted to show you today are back here. So the first thing that I always encourage people to do is have blankets and blocks when they're using yoga. When they're doing yoga. And the blankets can be used for all types of postures, but in particular, even for just sitting, because sometimes when we think about yoga postures, a lot are in a seated position, and that can be really hard on a person to sit on the floor, basically, or it's hard for people to get on the floor. So if you can get to the floor, but it's uncomfortable to sit flat on the mat, you can use blankets, like I am, to prop yourself up to make it more comfortable. You can also use blocks. So if someone, say, has tightness in their hips or discomfort in their knees, just use a block of some sort to prop underneath your knees like this so that you're comfortable. Yoga postures are meant to challenge your body, but they should never be painful. I think that when we push ourselves to the point of pain, your body automatically starts to fight that, and then that's where injury can happen or an aggravation of an injury can occur. So making yourself comfortable and giving your body the support it needs to really help find an optimal position and alignment to be in is really beneficial. Now, if getting onto the floor is difficult for you, there's lots of other options. So many seated yoga postures can be done sitting in a chair. So for example, I'm gonna grab my stool. Now, I recommend at home, if you're going to do a seated yoga, sit in a stable chair. So a kitchen chair, usually a straight back chair works best, because if you're sitting in a chair such as a recliner, a person tends to round and then it gets really hard to stay upright. But use what you have and make modifications. I do not recommend sitting on a chair with wheels on it. So don't do what I'm doing unless you're very, very stable, just because the chair and the wheels can roll away from you. But I'm using what I have right now. So if I was at home and I was gonna do a seated flow, I'd sit in my kitchen chair. And so when, for example, if you're taking a yoga class or you're doing anything that I might be teaching and maybe I'm sitting on the floor, you can always do it seated. Seated spinal twists can always be done just like this. I'm actually going to post a flow later today, and it is seated on the floor, but you can do it all on the chair. If you were going to do like seated cat-cows in a class, seated side angle. So anything like that can be done in a chair very easily, and you'll still get the benefits of the yoga postures. For standing postures, a common yoga pose that most people know is downward dog. But if it's difficult to get on the floor for downward dog, then you can do it standing at a table, a countertop. You can also use the back of your chair. Again, just make sure that your chair is stable and that it doesn't flip on you. So if you have balance challenges, using a table or countertop is always going to be best. If you do not and you just want some support, then a chair might work perfectly fine. So what you could do for a modified downward dog is put your hands on the table, the chair, or the countertop, and then you could just walk yourself back and find a nice stretch. You could do cat-cow from this position, like that. And this is the fast-forward version. Don't do any of the poses this fast, but just so you have an idea, if you were going to do standing postures such as Warrior One, and maybe you had some balance challenges, again, you can hold on and go into the Warrior One position. And then if you don't need that much support, you can always take one arm off. You can raise it overhead. You could go this way as well, holding on for support. Because again, the standing postures are going to work and challenge your balance, but if you're a person who has a lot of balance issues, you're not going to get much benefit trying to figure out how to fight your balance, because it's going to be extremely challenging and there's a risk of falling, which we do not want. So being stable, holding onto a supportive surface can always be helpful, and you can still go through so many of the yoga postures, okay? I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please comment below and I would be happy to answer them. So until next time, I will see you next week. Have a great day. Bye.